All right, awesome. I am Amanda Baker, and I am on the Visit NC team. I'm going to be sharing with you today more about sports tourism across the state of North Carolina, and how we can work with you all, and you all can work with us to help promote sports in the state. And I also have Chip Hoffler here with the North Carolina Amateur Sports, as well as state games and Cycle North Carolina that will be able to speak to some of these points as well. He's one of our event organizers who works here in the state. So let's dive in. So what we want to talk about today is how Visit NC works to help you all attract sports. We help you all by under the branding of Sports NC. Visit North Carolina partners with the North Carolina Sports Association, North Carolina Amateur Sports, and all 100 counties across the state to attracting sporting events. Sports NC is North Carolina's statewide sports development effort dedicated to maintaining and strengthening our rich sports legacy. And we market the state to event organizers. We collect and share leads with partners, connecting communities with event organizers looking for host destinations. We also assist in building relationships with event organizers and act as a resource for communities who want to learn more about the sports market and how to get engaged. So feel free to drop in the chat how you currently work with sporting events or the types of sporting events that you think you might want to host in your community so I can help amplify them when talking with potential event organizers. Also, another way that you can make sure you're reaching those contacts is by making sure that your listing is up to date on sportsnc.com. That is available to all destinations across North Carolina. And you might ask, what are the event organizers that we're going after? Professional sporting events aren't our main targets. We don't go after recruiting events for major professional sporting events or leagues like the MLS or the Super Bowls or the All-Star games, because there are very few of those and often come with a really big price tag to host those. However, with the new Major League Event Sports Fund, there could be more events that our partners are going after to bid on those different events. And we would be able to help support those partners in trying to bring those events to the destinations. But this is really where we're looking at. We're looking at the youth and amateur sporting events. That's where a lot of the opportunity lies. So why youth and amateur sporting events? According to the Sports Events and Tourism Association, $39.7 billion on direct economic impact spending of amateur youth sports events in 2021, generating a total economic impact of $91.8 billion, which resulted in a generation of 635,000 jobs and a total tax revenue of $12.9 billion for local economies. In 2019, 179 million people traveled to out-of-town events. And during the first COVID-19 year of 2020, travel decreased by 46%, but it quickly rebounded in 2021 by 53% to 175 million travelers. In general, the youth sports have largely been considered recession-proof and recession-resistant, I should say. Parents continue to invest and prioritize their kids' athletic endeavors, and I see this continuing to grow and continuing to be the case. Hosting a youth event brings not only the participant or the student, but it also brings the whole family to watch, and they spend more money in the community, hopefully even staying an extra day or two and making it a sportscation. We market to sports events planners and rights holders from a variety of organizations. We focus on the amateur and youth market as it can impact more of our communities. I am a one-person staff here on the Sports NC team, and I understand that you all may have a small staff as well. So it's important to make sure that we're impacting all 100 counties across the state and helping you all bring the type of events that you're looking to your destinations. Youth and amateur sports have local, regional, and national events, and successfully hosting a local or regional event could lead to national attention or potentially a national event later down the line. So it's really growing the event from the local level and creating opportunities to get some of those larger events later down the line. And everyone's first thought when they think of youth and amateur events are stick and ball tournaments. But there's a lot of other types of sporting events that a community can host, from mud runs to cycling, kayak fishing tournaments, jump roping. Then you have the other places creating events like a cardboard boat race event or the Iditarod, dog racing, surfing, sailing, equestrians, drone racing, you name it. There's just about a sporting event for everything. So when we look at North Carolina, what is it that sets North Carolina apart in the eyes of a sports event organizer or rights holder? All sports events planners have one thing in common. They have a lot they're juggling, and they have specific needs and logistics they're looking for when planning events. They want to be instilled with the confidence that our destination or place that has the know-how to make their event successful, and they don't want a lot of noise while they're looking for the answers to their questions. So they're looking for world-class facilities, seamless planning, exciting visitor experiences, and easy travel. And this is where I'm really excited to bring in Chip with North Carolina Amateur Sports and Cycle NC, who's joining me today to take a deeper dive into what attracts a sporting event planner to a destination and talk a little bit about some of the events that they plan. Chip, do you want to touch on Cycle NC?
Sure. So one of the events that that we work on at North Carolina Amateur Sports is Cycle North Carolina, and we have 3 different bicycle tours that go along with that. There's the Coastal Ride, the Mountain Ride, and the Mountains to Coast Ride. For this event, for this purpose, we'll focus on the Mountains to Coast Ride, which a couple of you on the call probably have hosted an overnight stop in the past. But this is, as Amanda was alluding to, it's not a stick and ball sport. We have about 850 cyclists that traverse the state going from the mountains to the coast. And we need overnight towns to host us for camping. It's a one-night stay. It's like an overnight camping and hotel rooms for the participants to stay in. So completely different than just a baseball tournament. You're going to have 850 cyclists in your town for an economic impact for one night only. But we also use, if you have one ball field or an oversized ball field or just any sort of green space, we can fit into that. And really any community that can partner, if you don't have hotel rooms, you can partner with another community that does, but it's a huge economic impact for your community potentially.
Speaking of economic impact, sports can be an economic driver. Sports can definitely be an economic driver for your community. The economic impact on a local community can be divided into 3 different categories. You got direct, indirect, and induced. The direct impact includes the local spending at hotels, restaurants, attractions, retailers, transportation costs, and entry fees. The indirect impact is defined as like the purchasing of goods and services and the impact on the supply chain. And then the induced impact encompasses employee spending either directly or indirectly associated with sports tourism. So, Chip alluded to it here a little bit about how Cycle North Carolina is an economic driver. Did you want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into that?
Yeah, so whenever we come into a community, we have, like I said, about 800 cyclists that need to go eat. They need to sleep. They basically spend money in the community. And so we've had a lot of communities say that our event is the biggest sales day of the year for some of their restaurants, shopping, and their bed and breakfast and stuff like that. So it really is a lot. There really is a lot of ancillary spending on top of just them registering for the event and them coming through. Because they do have to eat, they do have to drink, and they definitely go shopping and they visit whatever attractions you have as well, whether it's historic sites or tourist attractions also.
Yeah, and another great example of sports being an economic driver is the youth tournaments and competitions that take place at the Rocky Mount Event Center. Youth tournaments bring in not only the athletes, as I said, but their parents, siblings, sometimes even grandparents and friends, which equates to more hotel rooms, more people walking down the street to those local restaurants like Mo and D's and visiting other attractions in the area. The local businesses prosper, jobs are created, and tax revenue is earned because these people are visiting for those different events. And sporting events can really be used to help cultivate a community ripe for business recruitment and retention, helping to create a place people want to work and live. They can also be used as a tool to help expand the economic impact of an event. This is an example of that as well. Chip, do you want to talk about the Cycle NC Visit NC excursions?
Yeah, so with our Cycle NC Mountains to Coast tour, we partner with Visit NC to offer excursions for folks that don't want to ride their bike while they're traveling with us. So maybe it's a husband or wife of someone who is riding, or it's just someone who wants to come experience the state while camping out overnight and just joining us along the way. And so with the excursions, instead of riding each day, you can take motor coach transportation and go to 2 or 3 different tourist attractions, sort of on the way from one campsite to the next campsite. And so we've done that successfully over the past, I think, 5 or 6 years we've been doing it now. And so some of these photos are from those excursions. I see the Aurora Fossil Museum there, the Special Forces Museum, things like that. So that has been a good, again, creative way for other communities to get involved with us, even if we're not stopping overnight in your town. We still do bring participants through these excursions into your community to spend money again on these tourist sites, historic sites, things like that.
So now let's talk about where the opportunities lie and how to capitalize on sports. There's a few different ways to do that. Communities can attract, build, or create their events in their destination that's unique to their infrastructure and assets. For example, a community could create an event like in Elizabeth City. They worked with the Coast Guard base there and base Elizabeth City to create the first road race of the United States Coast Guard that's open to both military and non-military participants. So that's a unique attraction in their area that they were able to capitalize on in a unique partnership. If a community is already hosting an event, they could create local packages for the participants and give them additional reasons to stay longer or come back, really getting connected within the community. You could also help grow a local event by including them in your marketing materials to visitors so that they know that they could come back and experience this at another time, as well as promoting the event itself. And then there's attracting new events by being skilled in helping sports events planners create tailored experiences that ensure every tournament, game, and trip is a success for both athletes, their families, and event organizers. This can in turn turn them into your advocates and potentially return businesses. And some of that attracting new events, you could do different things like participating with the North Carolina Sports Association and attending different trade shows like Teams or Sports Relationship Conference, where you have one-on-one conversations and appointments with these different event organizers that put on different events throughout the state and throughout the nation. So let's get into what are some of these challenges that communities face as it relates to attracting different sporting tournaments or events. And feel free to put some of your own challenges in the chat as well. I'm sharing my screen, so I may not see them, but hopefully we can address them in the Q&A. And I'll touch on some of the main ones that I hear about often. One of those being having the infrastructure to host the sporting event itself, having enough hotel rooms or a venue with the specifications the event organizer is looking for, and understanding that each community is different. So a solution for that would be to look at the assets you have in your community, doing an asset inventory, and have an idea of the types of events that are a good fit for your community. Do you have a local outdoor space you could utilize, like a river or a trail? Are there local tennis courts that might be able to be utilized in a different way? Focusing on what you do have and not what you don't have, and then looking for partnership opportunities within neighboring communities. It's also an opportunity to audit what your neighboring communities have as assets. For example, if you have half the number of hotel rooms that you need to make an event work, could you partner with a neighboring community and combined, you all are able to host that event? Working together on that proposal could be beneficial to you all. Getting creative with the assets you have really opens up additional opportunities. Which brings me to just some things here for Chip and questions that I have for you. Can you share an example of a community that has utilized a venue or facility in a unique way other than its intended purpose, whether that was for state games or Cycle NC. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, sure. So Cycle NC, it happens quite a bit. I mean, most of these towns we go into don't have campsites or venues that are intended for camping. So on the most recent Mountains of the Coast tour, which we just finished up a couple of weeks ago, we went to Tarboro, and I know Tarborough's on the call today. We went to Tarboro for an overnight stop and utilized their town common, which is just a common green space in town that's not typically used for camping or hosting an event of this magnitude. And so that was a good example of using that type of space. And they were able to host all of our tent camping there, and they had even additional space that we could have hosted it. But the advantage was it was really close to downtown in walking distance. And so they were utilizing that space to kind of showcase their community, and then also providing convenience for the participants to walk downtown and visit their restaurants and go shopping. So that's a good example from the cycling perspective. I will say from the state game side, Strongman is one that comes to mind of an event that can really kind of fit in any sort of space that you have. And so it's kind of a weightlifting competition. But we've done that at convention centers in the past, but you really only need to have any sort of outdoor space, a parking lot, a green space, anything like that that's not that large will host a pretty sizable strongman competition. So that's another example from the state game side.
Yeah, and there's so many opportunities in some of these rural communities outside the city with just space and farmland. I know that there have been some farms that have been utilized for Tough Mudders or other kind of outdoor obstacle courses, things like that. And then I know on a recent conversation, we were talking about tennis courts and how they can be utilized for pickleball tournaments. You might not have enough tennis courts, but you break that down into a couple of different courts and you've got enough for pickleball.
Yeah, and pickleball is king these days. I mean, pickleball seems like it's taking over the world. So a couple tennis courts can actually host a pretty good pickleball tournament. And these folks are looking for places to play. So any type of tournament like that is going to be very popular.
And Chip, do you have any examples of how communities have worked together to host the different events that you author, whether that's state games or Cycle NC?
Yeah, I mean, with state games, we have 25 different sports, so we often lean on multiple communities. For example, this past year we were in Charlotte, Charlotte and Huntersville, Lake Norman area, Indian Trail, Mooresville, Gaston County, Gastonia, all kind of work together to host different pieces of the event. Most recently for CNC or for Cycle NC, I'll go back to Tarboro again. Tarboro and Rocky Mount kind of partnered on it a little bit in the fact that Tarboro didn't have enough hotel rooms, but Rocky Mount did. So we were able to bus folks to Rocky Mount to stay in hotels overnight. So, working together with your local neighbors is real important in bringing in events, particularly if you don't think you have the infrastructure for whatever the event is. I think, however, if you can partner with them, then it expands kind of your reach on what you're able to do, particularly with a hotel room or a restaurant or shopping type of inventory. And so shuttling folks to those areas for us with Cycle NC is important. For other events where they have their own transportation, just kind of partnering and promoting what's available in the neighboring community can help kind of sell an event organizer on, hey, if we bring it there, well, they can also go over here and do this and kind of added value for the event organizer and for their participants. And then, of course, if you don't have enough tennis courts, say, to host a pickleball tournament, you could partner with the neighboring community and add tennis courts in the neighboring community and have two different sites going at the same time. So all those are kind of options on how to partner with your neighbors.
And I know along with infrastructure comes the cost of some of these different things, or to host a sporting event or to upgrade a facility in order to host a sporting event. Can you share a little bit about what grants are out there right now or coming in the future for like the North Carolina amateur sports? I know you all have a fund.
Yeah, so We currently have an endowment fund that we award grants for equipment and events and facility upgrades. So on our website, ncsports.org, you can look there for those grants. And then with the most recent the gambling bill being passed, I think each county is going to be able to get up to $10,000 a year for different type of grants surrounding sports from that bill as well. And we'll be managing that fund also. So details on that are still foggy since that just got posted, but that will be coming down the line also. So you can visit our website to check those out.
And I know another aspect of things is just, or another challenge that people face is venue availability. And it's really about finding that right balance with local programming and the rental of a venue for outside events. So it's what works for your community. Especially when it comes to parks and recreation departments, and sharing the value of being able to bring in different events and how that might assist in bringing in future events or funding for future projects that you all have in your communities. And along with the venues and their availability is the timing of when the venue might need to be used. This could be for events or tournaments taking place around the same time that the venue is available. If tournaments are overlapping, like there's two softball tournaments taking place at the same time, then they might be cannibalizing their participation for those events. So a team can't be in two places at once. It might not be as profitable for the event organizer or the community to change their dates or location, depending on where the other event or tournament is taking place. So those are just some things to keep in mind as well. It might also be like a big festival or event you have in town that could impact a visitor experience should they be coming for a tournament or an event. If the restaurants are already going to be full, if the hotel rooms aren't going to be offering a discount, things like that are oftentimes challenges or something to take into consideration. And potential solutions to that is to propose additional dates, being transparent with the event organizers. Perhaps there's a particular event that you're speaking to them about, but it isn't a right fit for this time. They also may have other events that they're planning for that you aren't aware of that could be a good fit or in the future. For example, state games might not be an event that you would be able to hold, but if you're talking with North Carolina Amateur Sports, they're like, oh, but we do have Cycle NC, and potentially that is something that you could host. So just being open and transparent with folks like that allows for more opportunity and conversations around future events. That's just a few of the challenges, but it's not all challenges. There's good things to come. So let's talk a little bit about what makes a community a valuable partner. There are going to be some specific asks events organizers will have, including things like accommodations, facilities and venues that meet their needs. Depending on the event, it could be a ceiling height, the distance to a nearest airport, the number of courts, number of miles of trails, or the narrowest point of a river. Lots of different questions that come depending on the type of event. They typically provide like a RFP or a request for a proposal, which outlines what they're looking for their venue. They also look for volunteers. Those are the people in the community that can provide support, from local fire department to Boy Scouts or a local rec league. Also money, sponsorship dollars from a local business, or if the DMO can help pay for a bid fee or assist in getting a discount on a facility venue or fee. And there's the marketing side of it. Will you assist in marketing the event? Can you provide photo assets for them so they don't have to collect those sort of things? And then destinations that want to present. What makes your destination a great place to visit? Do participants want to come and experience your destination? How can you engage with them and make it something where they'll have really great attendance for this actual event? An engaged community can make all of the difference. And really, when it comes to that assistance with planning, navigating permits, sending out RFPs to local hotels, etc. Being skilled in helping those sports event planners create tailored experiences that ensure the tournament, game, and trip are a success for both the athletes, their families, and the event organizer is crucial. So along those lines, I'm going to ask Chip here, what type of things event organizer are looking for from a community, and it's a valuable partnership.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things we look for is what type of experience is the community going to be able to give our participants. So whether, again, I'll go back to Tarboro just because it's a good example. I mean, they had the entire community, it felt like, out there when our cyclists rolled up, which was just a great added benefit for the cyclists, and it added to the participant experience, which makes them want to come back to your community again, but B, it adds to our event and makes our event a better experience for them also. And so getting those volunteers is key. Getting those the entertainment aspect, whether it's a downtown, like they put on kind of a downtown festival band, type of thing, to get folks to go into the town. But again, that's good for us, but it's also good for the community. So I think that's what makes really a valuable partner, or part of what makes a valuable partner. And then also just figuring out some of the logistics with the event organizer in terms of what works best for your community versus what the event organizer is trying to accomplish. So like I said, whether if you're getting hotel rooms, you're trying to get folks to the hotels, if you can help provide transportation, if you can help provide directions, whatever it is, a welcome booth, on-site volunteers to help drive folks and answer questions for the event about the local community that the event organizer doesn't know. That's going to be something else that's valuable as well.
So rural communities seem to work really well for Cycle NC. What about that makes it work for your event?
I mean, a lot of it is the low traffic counts that help our cyclists get into town without kind of that congestion. But the local community, or the rural communities really seem to have, I guess, a great community aspect and feel to it. In other words, they get a lot of support from their residents. They seem to have a lot of dedicated residents that either have lived there for a long time or really believe in their community. And so I think that is what really builds a great overnight stop for us, or even some of the pass-through towns, is just those local residents and those volunteers rallying around it and kind of improving the experience for everyone.
I know you've already given some examples of what communities have done that have been of value to your partners or in partnership of your event. And is there anything that kind of like stands out from a participant perspective, like that participants are like, man, I really loved when this community did this, or like what they remember riding through a town?
Yeah, I mean, doing something unique is what they remember, right? I mean, a lot of our communities do, entertainment from bands and things like that. But I remember Troutman one year had a petting zoo on site, and people still talk about the petting zoo. And they used, instead of buses for shuttles, they used like limos for shuttles. So just different things like that, being creative, kind of makes you memorable down the road. And so those are a couple things that jump off the top. They also had a hot air balloon, kind of tethered hot air balloon experience at the campsite. So again, they were just getting creative, but that was probably 13 years ago, and I still remember it. So, so that's, I mean, anything to help you stand out is going to help, or really is going to get people to come back. And that's what the ultimate goal is, right? I mean, it's good to have the event have an economic impact for that weekend, but also folks coming through town, maybe the first time they're in your community. They may never have heard of your community before, but coming through town this time, you want to make a great impression on them so that they'll want to come back and see what your town's all about, and maybe even spend more time there.
And there's definitely some value that partners can provide when it comes to promotion of your event, and vice versa. You being able to share great stories like this taking place within different communities. So can you give an example of how Destination has done a great job promoting the event either before or after?
Yeah, I think this year we had a couple of towns do a great job. Mebane was one of them, of utilizing social media to promote that the event is coming, creating videos. Tarboro created multiple videos this year, kind of highlighting our stop and pushing them out on social media. And so those type of things really do help in terms of letting the local community know, rallying support in the local community for it, but then also promoting it to folks who may not have heard of our event that are following those pages. So that's kind of a win-win for the event organizer and for the town.
I know we've touched on quite a few things here, but anything left out that you want to like shout out as like overarching creating value for you as a partner?
I think one of the main things that we haven't discussed really is having that great contact with the community. So whoever that is, whether it's the Convention and Visitors Bureau person, somebody who can really make things happen. You need a driver, a person that is a go-getter that will work with the event organizer and be that contact and be that liaison with the community to really just get things done leading into the event and leading into the planning and planning for the event. So that's one of the, when we have a great community partner, a great personality, it makes the event so much better because they are willing to just do whatever it takes to have a great event.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. And some of the destination marketing organizations or visitors bureaus making that connection if they aren't able to provide the resources financially or the time to allocate towards the event. Potentially there is a cycling shop in the community that would just love to be involved in something like this, or someone on the board who's really active in whatever pickleball or whatever the event may be, because that community building, the partnerships within the community really make that a difference to appealing to event organizers, and having that community support can really make the difference on whether a company or a business decides to come there or not, event organizer. And this is where we get to some of the testimonials that have been provided, collecting the testimonials from an event itself, being able to share that, talk with stakeholders for future events, as well as just community support and resident sentiment for being able to host different events as they come up in the future. I just wanted to give Cycle NC a shout out. I think they do a great job of this and collecting participant information, what you as their partners say from tourism bureaus, the mayors that get involved, as well as the residents. And I would encourage you, if you do host an event, to collect this information as well to be able to share.